Hello again, everyone. If you're unaware, I made a video about this Kalista They Who Endure deck I've been playing, and sort of explained what the deck was about, went over a replay against a Bannerman deck, and a few of you said that the replay I gave was not quite enough. You wanted to see more the specific choices that I made in building the deck impacting the game. So I picked a couple other replays that I had. The first one I'm giving is a Ezreal Karma deck that I played before the patch sort of changed things. And then I have another replay of a Yeti deck that I played against, which is actually sort of a similar build to mine, but sort of slower. And usually that means that in like a mirror matchup, a deck that's built to be a bit slower is going to be a bit better. But I was able to win that one by just kind of like putting superior pressure on. And so yeah, I want to show both of those just to show in two different scenarios why this more aggressive build kind of works better. At least I'm finding on the ladder right now. And yeah, if you haven't watched my previous video, I recommend you start there. I'll put a link in the description. So with that, let's get started with the Ezreal replay. Now, Ezreal Karma is obviously a very powerful deck you see all over the ladder. It's just like pretty much the best control deck around. And the way that I like to mulligan for it is to try to keep these like value game-ending plays like They Who Endure, while also trying to curve out. So obviously I'm going to keep the Arachnid Horror, which is a 2-drop when I don't have anything to play, or any other like 2-drops. But I want to get rid of the other one because it doesn't really help the curve. We get a little bit lucky with finding the Aristocrat here. And Aristocrat is actually a card that I've cut from this deck, but it's just nice to be able to play on turn 1 some of the time. I also like to value Glimpse pretty high in this matchup, just because you can like deny a lot of value from the Ezreal player who wants to be getting these targets out, but if you Glimpse ahead of a removal, they just don't get the target on the Ezreal. So Arachnid Horror is a card that I play that most Endure Spider decks do not. It has just a little bit of extra synergy for being a Spider, but the main reason we play it is because, like I have said in the previous video, we're kind of a lot more in on Fearsome than most other decks are going to be. And between Arachnid Horror and Kalista, that Fearsome kind of lets us play a lot more aggressively. We can skip over blockers like these small ones the opponent has, and also the Fearsome units are just really well statted. And we'll see here, you know, if this had been a control tool instead of Arachnid Horror that I would have had to mulligan, I'd be doing a lot less damage, the damage wouldn't add up, and I just wouldn't be able to be as aggressive at all. So here the opponent plays Chump Bump, which is, you know, the first card that can block Fearsome that they've played. I play out my Wraithcaller, like, compared to my Rude Awakening, which would have been my other option. It just feels nicer because it gets another Fearsome out, it makes my Miss Wraith that's in my hand a bit better. And it allows me to do what I do here. Ahead of open attacking, I just play the Mist Wraith, and that gives me these two different 3-power attackers that are going to be able to attack well into the Chump Wump. And that just kind of feels better than having like a lot of spiders and then just like a stronger Arachnid Horror. Because the Arachnid Horror is just going to wind up trading into the Chump Wump anyways, and then my other spiders all trade into the other blockers. So this board's just a lot better than what I would get out of Brood Awakening. And I don't feel too bad about not open attacking into Karma Ezreal, almost just like in general, because Karma Ezreal is a deck that usually benefits from playing fast. It's not trying to punish me not open attacking that often. They have plays like Thermogenic Beam, which can be annoying in certain spots where I make higher value plays, like if this had gotten burned later on my They Who Endure, that kind of sucks. But here, it's actually really good for us, because now we don't have to worry about any kind of combat tricks, any kind of fast speed things they can do, and we're able to play out our Glimpse, which gives us value for blocking Ezreal, like I mentioned before, and also just is like becomes a 2-draw 2, which is amazing. We draw Skitterer off of it, which just puts a little bit of extra fearsome damage on the board and makes our trades a lot better into the smaller units. And just overall, like this decision to not go in an open attack right away just gave us like a ton of extra damage. Plus
crime didn't pay.
Effectively, we cleared the opponent's board almost for free, and then did an extra 3 damage thanks to Skitterer.
Night.
So in this spot, we have 7 mana, it's turn 6, and we have drawn Battle Fury. And we always feel really good about drawing Battle Fury against control matchups, because our game plan tends to be here to just now make the board as wide as possible, and then just slam Battle Fury as soon as they've played things out to try to deal with the attacks. If they're just letting us do this wide open attack all the way through, that puts us in a spot where suddenly our Atrocity is essentially like a free win, because it's just harder for them to win faster than we can either attack or play the Atrocity in response to them tapping out. And that just forces moves like this that we see from the opponent, where these jury-rig plays are pretty good, but what's a lot harder for them to do is decide they have Will of Ionia in hand, which is spoiled.
Too late for you.
And now they have to make a choice. Okay, I want to keep Karma alive. Can I do that while just like playing Will to preserve her?
By force of will.
And that just puts them in Atrocity range, and that's just not good enough. So they're going to actually end up doing both, valuing neither the Will nor Karma more than the ability to play around Atrocity. And of course, because we have Battle Fury and Atrocity both in hand, like I've said, it's just good to have both to play around in different games. We just end up in this situation where it's almost possible for us to lose, and we play out Battle Fury in response to Will of Ionia for the win. And that's pretty much all I wanted to say about the Ezreal Karma game. You know, we see where, even though I didn't get to play Kalista that game, taking out control options to put in aggro options lets us play better against, you know, not only Bannerman, where we saw this sort of helping a little bit, the control tools not helping a whole lot against that deck. There's also as Karma, which is a very popular ladder deck and tournament deck that we now have a much more favorable matchup against. So with that, let's get started on the replay with the T&T deck, which is what people tend to call this Thresh and Tryndamere kind of deck. Looking at it, I know I'm playing sort of like a control/anti-aggro kind of thing. We take out Vile Piece because it's pretty hard to get value out of, and Brood Awakening because it just plays into the cards like Avalanche and Whale way too easily. You know, Avalanche isn't something that's played a whole lot, but Whale is just super dangerous. We end up getting some pretty decent stuff. They Who Endure is always something I'm happy to see when I'm against these slower decks, even in the opening hand, because it's such a crazy card when I'm able to finally play it out, and I'm always going to be able to finally play it out, even with a slow hand. And just like a few different 2-drops are always fine, because we have some good 2 spell mana options, so the 2 into 2 like doesn't suck when we're not playing anything on turn 1. And I will note that this is the Relic version of the deck that I mentioned before. Like, I cut Aristocrat from the deck, and I've put in Haunted Relic because I'm just finding that Kalista is so much more powerful post-buff that we're able to spend a card advancing the win con of just killing our own units a lot, sometimes doing chip damage, and also just leveling Kalista pretty much for free. So we played the Elise out. The opinions are kind of split about whether this is a good thing to do or not. Personally, I just like playing Elise out pretty early. We don't tend to flip Elise, and I feel pretty good about just like playing her out and then losing her to higher power removal than would have taken out whatever other play. Saying that, though, I did just misplay by not open attacking with her. You know, the power of playing Kalista, or Elise on turn 2 is that I just get this 3 damage open attack that also generates a unit. The reason it's a misplay, and the reason I made the misplay, is that this kind of deck normally doesn't have any slow speed plays on turn 3, even with 3 banked mana, that make me really regret playing more units out. Except now that Everose and Trapper is a thing, because this 3/3 stat line is a lot better for 3 mana. Now it's blocking Fearsomes, even though Fearsome isn't super in the meta, that's still going to be relevant, especially in games like this, and obviously something I should have been thinking about. But, like, it also has this, like, this health of 3 that just means that none of my 2 power units can attack into it. I do get a little bit lucky in that I have Vile Feast at the ready that I'm able to just, like, ping to deal with that extra bit, which is a big part of why, you know, Vile Feast is the only interaction I'm running, It gives me value because it's a unit. A ping is very, very often all you need out of removal. And it just makes that go from feeling like that should have felt like really bad because I just lost an Elise for basically nothing when I should have opened attacked. Now, like, I get the same amount of damage, and now I'm trading effectively card for card because we're okay with playing just like the one spider here. With like, it really only costs me the 1 unit mana. So taking out this Avaros and Trapper makes it feel kind of okay. The Trapper, however, does feel like a really good trade for them because it puts the Yeti at the top of the deck, obviously. Or in the top 3 cards. It ends up being the top 1 card, and they play it out this next round, which is a little unfortunate for me, but what are you gonna do? So this is the next turn. Like I say, they play this Enraged Yeti, which is a very powerful card, and as some of you probably know, is becoming a popular archetype. I was thinking about playing Mistwraith this turn. You know, we get the spiders as a response, but the fact that they have such a powerful body out makes you want to play my 4/3. It just kind of gives me a better attack in the following turn. What I'm thinking about with this block, and maybe this is wrong, I'm not used to playing as the Yeti deck a whole lot yet, but what I'm thinking about this block is that usually I want to be trading out spiderlings. They're just not that good on the board, but they're very strong once they die because they feed they who endure. Is that, oh, I can get it down to 4 health and suddenly it can't block my Mistwraith once I buff it, or my Wraithcaller. But I am deciding that I'm just going to eat 5 damage because when you know that you're the faster deck, or the beatdown as sometimes people will say, you can really use your Nexus health as a lot more of a resource and just kind of take hits like that. And blocking the Wraithcaller is exactly what the opponent ends up doing with it, leaving it as a 5/1. At this point in the game, kind of what I was thinking is like, okay, a 5/1 isn't very powerful, so I'm pretty okay with how that played out. In hindsight, I think that was definitely a mistake. It's hard to say, but at this point I have like this full board that just isn't really doing anything for me. Having 1 less spider wouldn't have been a problem, and either having a dead Yeti or 3 more damage and a Wraithcaller on the board state would just feel a lot better to me. So, in short, I think planning ahead to saying, okay, I'm going to stop Yeti from getting this value block later, rather than saying, I'm just going to let the Yeti block how it wants to, and then start doing these value blocks. Because, you know, this is as far as I had thought ahead to, and was saying, oh, well, if 5/1's going to be bad, I can just block the spider then. But, as you can see, they just don't attack, obviously. So, just not thinking quite far ahead enough is what happened there. Now, what does matter is kind of what's happened here, where this Soul Gorger's been played. And Soul Gorger is an incredibly powerful anti-aggro tool. This premium 3 attack is very good for killing a lot of units and blocking Fearsome, and then 7 health is just a whole ton, and you're also life-stealing. So I'm feeling a ton of pressure from this, and I make this very strange-looking play of playing my They Who Endure as just a 6-mana 6/6. Now, as strange as that play probably looks, there's a very good reason for it. At 6/6, this unit is already killing the Soul Gorger. The opponent knows that they need to keep Soul Gorger alive if they're going to keep, you know, alive in this game. So, immediately I have a unit that the Soul Gorger can't really block that's doing a decent amount of damage. And I am putting a certain amount of pressure on the board, and I'm going to stop it while I have the Oracle Eye over. So we know we're going to see some kind of block like this, where the Soul Gorger is blocking the best unit for it to block, and then you kind of just like throw the Yeti down. This is technically a misplay because you want the Soul Gorger to survive longer. They're supposed to block the other way around, but that's neither here nor there. The thinking here is that in a situation like this, the opponent is going to be surviving with 5 health. I know I'm getting the 6 damage in. They're healing 3 damage from the Soul Gorger, and then I've got my 3 damage from the Spiderlings. I am normally looking for value against a Lifestealer by killing the unit that the Lifestealer is in combat with. Ideally, I'm doing that with Glimpse Beyond, because I don't want to be using Atrocity unless it wins me the game. But here I have the Atrocity, which gives me that option, even if it's not usually my first choice, and I don't have Glimpse Beyond. So what I've thought about is, okay, does playing this card out as a 6/6 give me an opportunity to use Atrocity for that value that I'm looking for? And the fact is that it does, because if you see here, whichever unit ends up getting blocked, I can do 6 or 7 damage effectively by playing Atrocity in response to their block. Because I deal up at least 3 damage because I'm Atrocitying a 3 damage unit, and I'm stopping 3 damage of heal. And because without making this play they'd be reduced down to 5, that gives me lethal, and that's all I want Atrocity to do. So we'll keep playing. That's the reason for playing this low value They Who Endure, which puts the amount of pressure on that I want. And you can see there in the Oracle Eye that that's lethal. Unfortunately for me, because I've kept this Yeti alive, they end up with a pretty good counterplay. Like I said, this is a fairly similar deck, and in this kind of matchup, you need to be ready for the opponent just, like, playing one step slower than you are, and therefore getting a huge advantage out of that. In this case, that is this very weird, like, even weirder, I think, than my other play, of playing an Atrocity to basically deny your opponent's Atrocity. And it, like, from their hand state, this almost certainly was the correct play from the opponent. You know, you're surviving with 2 health this way. You've got your next Yeti to play up to try to get value out of. Your Soul Gorger is still alive. This 3/6 is so much more valuable than a 5/1. And like you're back in the game basically. As long as you can stay alive with this 2 health, you're looking okay. So they attack with their whole board. You know, the beard gives them hand value. And unfortunately for them, though, I'm just able to find a really good play. Like I said before, my 6/6 They Who Endure is able to block into the Soul Gorger and completely kill it. They still get the value from not having killed it before by healing again. And because I'm killing this unit, I'm not immediately leveling up Kalista, so they're feeling pretty good at this point. Lucky for me, I have recently changed this deck to include Haunted Relic. Sacred Relic is a item in Dota. I know that's the other game. We don't do that here. Because I play these ephemeral units, I'm able to just play this out, easy 2-mana play, and suddenly I have this 5/4 Fearsome on my side of the field that needs to be blocked in addition to my They Who Endure. And I just have like a ton of pressure on the board now. They do not have a response in hand, and they have to basically glimpse their Yeti, which feels super bad, but if they can find certain kinds of tools to deal with this stuff, like a Grasp looks really good right here. To kill my Kalista, get almost out of lethal range if they just find like a file piece or anything like that. But they don't, so they lose. And again, that's just kind of like why I feel so good about the aggressive version of this deck. It's even against slower versions, the fearsome strategy has not stopped being good just because people aren't playing it anymore. In fact, it's better. People are playing these small chump blockers that you get to invalidate again, and the units are still good. Skidwar is still really good even at 3/2. And we just have a really good plan A of the fearsome aggressive with like a better top end than it's ever seen and a ton of ways to win. And that versatility is exactly what I was talking about before, and it's why this deck I think is like my personal favorite deck in all of Runeterra. But I don't know, we'll see if a tuned Yeti deck is able to beat it one day.